right, Josh, my friend, are you on already?
Yeah, excited to be here. Definitely.
Okay, excellent. Do you give how do you give back to the community, right? Tell us that, right? We're kind of
A lot of ways, but mainly through the church. But yeah, definitely, I caught some of Michael's presentation there, and there's a lot of ways to serve, and this is definitely the time to think about that, especially if you're trying to get a tax credit. Now's a great time to do it.
yeah.
So it's very timely. I missed part of it, Michael, so I apologize. I don't know exactly the gist of it.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So we'll take it from here. So Josh, we had the original training from Josh. He basically takes existing entrepreneurs. He follows after Michael. He takes existing entrepreneurs and makes their businesses even better. I'm actually happy to say that I'm a client. We're actually have Alex Alexandrov here, who's a client, and we have a tremendous amount of gratitude for Josh and what he does at Work the System. I myself am a client of Done For You service, which is basically I'm assigned one of the coaches from Josh's business, and who basically guides my staff to create and systematize processes. A lot of the times our staff are there to do what we do, right? What they do, which is either office management role or property management role in my case. But you need somebody who understands, who has the expertise and the capabilities to do the work, the systems. And I'm very glad that I was able to bring in an expert and kind of get my staff all rowing in the same direction of systematizing my business, so we could eliminate myself from doing a day-to-day job, and I could potentially go and help Michael time in what he does, right? So that's my goal with Josh. We're just a month or two into the process, so I'm not there yet to free up my whole time. But I know me and Alex are in the path to kind of free the businesses of us, so we could all go back to Eastern Europe and travel around there, right, Alex?
Exactly. It's the ski
Right.
season, so it would have been nice to be with people there now.
So,
But
Alex, can you talk a little bit about what you do with Work the System, kind of a little bit your experience?
so what I really liked about Work the System was that it's a very simple and logical, easy to understand process, systematized process to systematize your business. And I've given it a try before to make all of my repeated tasks into a system, but we always overcomplicated it. So I really like Josh's approach and the fact that they have a training program for an in-house person. So we signed up our office manager to be that person, and she's going through the course. And we just rolled it out to the team. So we're asking for feedback from everyone. It seems like it's very well taken. And we're still early into the process to give the results of it, but so far it's great, and I'm very happy that we signed up. Josh is great, and the system is too.
Yeah.
So
And he has a lot of different. Thank you, Alex. And Josh has a lot of different ways that he could help us and work with us, systemize the business. Alex and I have different processes we go into. I actually got somebody that's a coach. Alex actually is working through a certification to train his inside person to become that project, systems person. So, and then Josh, I'll leave you take it away to see what else you do and kind of what how your clients can benefit from that.
That sounds good, and appreciate the kind words. Alex, I didn't know what, or I'm pronouncing your name right, Alex?
Alex Alexandrov, yeah.
Yeah, we both go by Alex. So
okay, that's what's
that's
confusing
right.
me. But yeah, I mean, I was curious to hear what your results are, because we haven't had a chance to even talk. So glad so far so good. Yeah, you just started. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. How many of you were at the last presentation like 3 or 4 months ago? Was everyone there or not?
Pretty much majority of us. I think Meredith, were you there at the last presentation?
Probably not. I'm actually from EO Baltimore. I just jump in.
Yeah. Welcome, EO Baltimore. All right. Well,
Okay.
for a treat, because if you look into systematize your process, this is the guy to talk to. So thanks for joining.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me crash.
Yeah, well, good. So, well, good. So some have been here, some have not been here. I wanted to make sense. So some of this, you're going to see these slides again, but instead of spending 10 minutes on a slide, I'll just spend like 30 seconds just to give some context. Because the main question that I was getting after the last time I talked to you all was, how do I find the person to do this for me? How does it actually happen in the business in terms of implementation? And I think for both Alex's here, because you're actually in the middle of this, I was thinking about this last night, is you're going to want to see some of these final slides today is actually implementation, how this actually gets implemented, whether you're using our help or you're doing it on your own. So it's going to be a good framework for you. So kind of custom built this based on our conversation yesterday, Alex. I think this will hopefully hit all the bases for what people need, and also kind of give you some context as we go through it. So I'll go fast. All right. So starting with an icebreaker story, and Alex, you have to be quiet because I think you were in one of my sessions a while back. But when I first started out, after I got my undergraduate degree in architecture, I worked for 2 real estate developers. One of them developed Walgreens, and I was in the Walgreens team, and one of them developed this shopping center right here under construction, and has a laser light, and it has some outdoor fireplaces and water features and concerts, amphitheaters. So as a new employee, which place do you think I enjoyed working at better? You guys can put it in the chat box or just say 1 or 2. So who thinks 1 would be a better place to work? Option number 1. Anyone? No one. How about number 2?
I'd say option number 2 sounds like fun.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit more exciting, right? These are, tens of millions of dollars, more like hundreds of millions of dollars, these projects. So now let me give you some more context. When I got hired at number 2 at that place, they asked me which college I went to. I went to the University of Michigan, and they said, okay, so do you like Wolverines football? And I said, sure. And then we talked about football for 10 minutes. And I got the job. And he said, okay, it's a sink or swim culture. So hope you're ready to work. And then option 1, they checked my references. They did a background check. I had to do a math test, a writing test. I did a one-on-one interview, a phone interview, a group interview, and then I got hired. So just with that context, which place do you think was a better place to work? Any ideas? 1 or 2? You can put in the chat box if you want to. Again, number 2 is just kind of casual, like, hey, we're going to be buddies here. It's going to be fun. Everyone's too shy to put it. Oh, actually, you know what?
1.
Okay. Okay, some of you are there. Maybe it's coming in slowly. Okay.
I would still choose number 2, Josh.
Okay, we're getting some mixed results here. All right. So when I first started working at place number 2, there was no job description for me. There was no process or procedure to follow. There was nothing. It was just good luck. And the first 6 months that no one bothered to learn my name, because most people didn't last 6 months. And so I was working 7 days a week. I was probably working 80 to 100 hours a week all the time. I thought this was normal. I thought this was normal because I didn't have any other work experience, right? So I'm in my early 20s. I was like, well, I guess this is just the way it is. And I got rated as, best employee of the company, probably because they're working me so hard. And I didn't know any different. And eventually I wanted to get promoted because I'd been there for 3 years, and I wanted to go to be a project manager. And they said, well, Josh, we like you, you're doing great work, but we don't offer any training here. And so if you want to move to a level, we can't promote you here because you have to actually get trained somewhere else and then you can come back, because we don't actually offer any steps to advancement. So anyways, I left, right? I went to the company number 1. And so while I was working there, they had they actually, the first day I got there, they gave me a binder that was about this thick, right? And they said, this is how you build a Walgreens, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, every single thing you need to know to build Walgreens. And so basically if you follow these steps, finding the land, doing the surveys, going through entitlements, getting, going through entitlements, getting the contractors hired, the GCs, and breaking ground and going through all the construction and selling the building, going through that entire process, it might take about 2 years, and it's about $7 million. So they would hand that job over to me in my mid-20s and actually to develop Walgreens. And so when I saw these two different companies, the way they operated, I realized they're both in the same industry. They're both real estate development, and they're both entirely different. And the company number one company actually got rated best place to work. They developed more Walgreens than anyone else in the nation. And I got paid twice as much, and I worked half as many hours. And they supported me while I was going through my MBA program at night. So that's kind of I guess the difference between a company that is out of control with nothing documented, no systems, right? And then one that's in control, where the employees and the owners are making really good money. Also, company number one did have they donated a ton of money, ton of time to foundations like what Michael just mentioned as well. So they actually were all about giving back, and no one was stressed out, and no one wanted to leave. And I oftentimes talk about the reason to systemize a business because of the owner, because of course the owner knows that the company is going to be more sellable. It's going to allow them more freedom, but there's also the whole impact that it's going to help your team, right? And what helps your team is going to help you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is building that number one company. So the product isn't as exciting, but the process of making it is more exciting and more profitable. All right. So you saw this from last time. This is really who this is for. If you fit in one of these categories, then this is for you. If you don't, then it's not going to be for you, right? Overwhelmed. You're held hostage by your people, as in you don't know what they do. You have ambitions to grow, right? If you want to stay the same, then this presentation is not really going to be for you. You want to innovate, and you are stuck because you can't do the projects you know are going to help your company because you're stuck in the day-to-day, and you want some actual freedom. Owners of companies typically are working long hours, and including during Christmas and New Year's, and they really can't get away. And so the idea is, how do we make that happen? And so that's kind of the whole purpose. And it really is the genesis of the story. The story, I think you guys can all see me on camera too, this story here, Work the System, which is written by my business partner. So we're going to hit on these first 4 concepts really fast, because these are from last time. And then we're going to spend the last, most of the time, 90% of it on these last 4 topics. All right, so that's going to be the overview of today, if this looks familiar. So who am I? I've been working with Sam Carpenter for the last 10 years. After I got my degree in architecture, I got an MBA, and I've been doing business consulting for the last 10 years around the world, a lot of countries, a lot of clients, and with Sam Carpenter, the vast majority of those years. And so what I do is help companies grow by managing their systems. Again, here's the book. The book is about Centratel. If you want to download the book for free, you can go to workthesystem.com. It's in Bend, Oregon. It's still in place. Sam Carpenter still owns the business. This picture is probably 8 years old. He still owns the business. He works probably 2 hours a month in the business because he likes to. And he makes more money every month over month, because of the systems he's put into place. And his particular business runs between a 30 and 40% net profit. In his industry typically has a 3% net profit. So it's extremely efficient and highly profitable. And he hasn't really had to do any work that he had to do in the business for about 15 years now, but he just continues to own it because he likes to own it. He enjoys being a business owner, so he does. So the fundamentals are these fundamentals right here. Again, I'm going to go through this briefly. It's shifting your mindset first to see the separate systems of your business. It's to have a strategy second, right? So if you don't have a clear strategy and a clear focus, then everything else afterwards is very complicated. So this is about simplifying your strategy, having principles your team all buys into, and then having procedures that, you know, kind of like what we were talking about, Alex was talking about, is, you know, documenting their systems. That's what this piece is right here, the working procedures piece. Now, when we talk about this, there's usually some objections. Again, some of you have heard these already. The first objection is people say, everyone already knows what to do here. We've been doing it a long time. Why should we bother with this? Why should we bother, you know, systemizing or documenting the systems of our business? And this is the story I go into is about a manufacturing firm that been in business for decades. And they documented one procedure, which was the shift change between first shift and second shift. And they found $100,000 in waste in that shift change. And it took them about an hour to find it. So when you get to the details of your systems, there's sometimes there's a lot of money there. The second reason people object is they think their business is too complex. And sometimes it is too complex the way they have it organized. And so the story I believe I shared with you last time was a company that was a commercial appraisal firm that I worked with. And they used to appraise these documents, and it took an employee who was paid $100,000 a year to review all these documents. And once we had a documented system for how to review the documents, and these are like construction documents for buildings, we were able to have a $12 an hour person do 90% of the work instead of paying a $100,000 a year employee to do it. So again, by simplifying and documenting, we were able to make a big shift. And then number three, my team were rejected. We have worked with several churches, it's like Michael, you mentioned, and they thought that systemizing and documenting systems of a church seemed kind of ridiculous. But when we realized how much work, good work, you know, stewarding their work could be delivered to volunteers if they just knew how to do those particular tasks, then they got excited about documenting. We were able to document a lot of their procedures and engage their volunteers, and obviously lower the cost of their payroll, which was quite high in their facility. And then the fourth objection is that people are too busy, right? So they're too busy. And this particular client, even though everyone worked 7 days a week, it was a used car dealership. We found the time. We worked evenings from like 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. with their team on their systems, and actually brought on a business systems manager, which is who we're going to talk about in a minute. And they were able to get beyond the chaos by finally taking a stand and not sticking in status quo, right? So once I saw them do it, I realized other people could do it because they were really busy when I got there. So we talked about last time the secret weapon, which would be the business systems manager. Someone who's organized, trustworthy, and consistent. And my push to you all was you probably have this person in your business already, just like a mental health nonprofit that I had a story about that particular company where an average low-level manager in the company, we just trained them and they documented the systems of the business. They were organized, they were trustworthy, they were consistent, and it was a very effective project. And so I was kind of telling you all about this concept of having a business systems manager in-house, right? And how they identify the systems, they gather them, they document them, they sort them, they assign them, optimize them, measure them, and maintain them. So there's a lot of work that they do, but it's oftentimes not a full-time job, right? And so I share with you a story about a fertilizer company where the business systems manager was actually one of the vice presidents there, and she worked at it a couple hours a week, and it was a $50 million a year business, and this is all she did. She helped manage this particular work, and I just trained her, and that's how the work got done. So that's certainly an option. But what I wanted to do is, before I go further, is to go into the new stuff. And so the new material that I wanted to get into, and Alex, let me know, I'm assuming I have like 15 more minutes or so?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 15 more minutes. Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is about your strategic objectives and the operating principles. You know, I actually coming into working with your company thought that, oh yeah, we just got to document the process and that's great. But going back and saying, okay, what is my strategy? What am I not doing? And then basically the operating principles. that's actually making sure that when I'm not there, my staff can refer to those working procedures that we all agree to, what's the right mindset and decisions are, because you can't actually document 100% of everything they do. Like, how do you document a mindset? We look to stretch the dollar, right? Because the dollar is important. Well, that's an operating objective. There's no process for that, right? You just kind of work that. But to me, it was like when you were going through those slides, it was kind of going this. And then, are you open to questions now, or you wait till
Oh,
then?
I'm gonna do it at the end. Yeah, I'm gonna leave time at the end. I just want to make sure.
But yeah,
So
yeah.
so
Go ahead.
this
You
is
got
all
another 15 minutes, and then we got questions.
good. Okay, so 15 minutes, then the questions. That sounds good. So that was all stuff from last time. And Alex is totally right that you can't procedurize, let's just say, a good attitude when someone comes into your front door of your business, right? But we can put it as part of the framework of the business through the strategy, through the principles, right? And you can have a procedure called how to greet someone at the front door. I'm actually working with a smoothie shop right now, and in Long Island, and they're opening up new locations, and that's a procedure they're working on right now, which is, when someone comes in the door, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to say? Because they're doing it 10 different ways right now. All right, so back to this. So there's actually 4 ways to find your secret weapon, which is your business systems manager. So we talked about, okay, you probably want this person, they're going to get your company organized for you, and there's 4 ways to do it. And we're going to go through each of these 4 ways to do it. So this is going to be more about implementation, assuming you've bought into this concept that you do want to have a company where the systems are managed and you can grow without being more and more enslaved. The first one is you personally can be the business systems manager, right? So Alex and Alex, neither one of you purchased this program, but this is basically, you say, you know what? I like the this whole concept. I'm organized. I don't want to document my own systems. And so if your company is smaller and everything is in your head and you enjoy writing down systems, then this is what you would do, is you would just assume this role as several hours of the week, you're going to be the business systems manager, right? You learn the method, you lead the strategy, and you actually do the work of a business systems manager. And so I highlight this guy right here. If you wanted to watch a podcast, right? I did it with this guy named Robert Moss. He's actually was a client who bought Systemize to Thrive years ago, and he had a physical therapy business, but he really liked to write systems. He was into systems. He wanted to learn about systems. And so he took the course, and then he grew his physical therapy practice, right? And so I think he has like 10 more employees now. And now he only has to work part-time in his physical therapy business. And now he's actually one of my certified consultants, right? So he loved it so much that he got certified to help other companies, right? So this is somebody who really has this kind of a mindset. This is not for everybody. So I would, if you're more entrepreneurial, you like to, take on big new projects, you don't like to write, you don't like to sit and focus on the details, don't go this route. But for a lot of people, this would be a solution for them. These are people who read the book and they just do it themselves. The second thing, if you want to have it be SM or business systems manager, is you do the route that Alex is doing. Alexandrov, I forgot the last name. I didn't write it down. But basically, where you just bring your second in command, and this is what Lori did over here. And this is, I'm forgetting the guy's name who runs, Troy. So Troy and Lori did, is I actually worked with their second in command. I didn't work with Lori, I didn't work with Troy, because both of them are entrepreneurial. Both of them are visionary. Both of them like to, I guess, focus on big picture things. They don't like to focus on the details. And they had somebody next to them that we focus with instead. This is extremely common, right? And so in this case, you lead the strategy, right? You still have to lead the strategy. I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes here, but they will learn the method and they will do all the work. They're going to identify the separate systems. They're going to gather them up. They're going to document them, sort them, assign them, all those other things, right? And this is, again, our certified business systems manager. So at the end of their training, they get certified. And so this is another option for you. I think this fits with most business owners, especially those who would attend an EO group. Is you're probably not the kind of person who's going to, like step one, smile, step two, pick up the phone. Like you're probably not the kind of person who's going to actually do the details, but really the efficiency, the profitability, the scalability, the simplicity comes through the details. You do need somebody like that, right? I've got someone on my team who does that for me, because I've done it for other companies long enough to know if I do it too long, I will not be happy. So I don't do it, right? But I have someone else who does, and that's kind of, this would be the thing that I would probably buy. The next thing, and this is something that Alex, you and I talked about right after our last call, and I looked into it. Actually, my second in command used to be a recruiter. We talked about maybe doing the recruiting for people who want to have a BSM, like hire it in-house. And we decided that's not going to be core to our business. But there are two companies that I have interviewed, I've worked with, that I trust, that I think you would be able to get someone who could do this for you. So basically, if you're hearing about this whole idea of getting the systems of your business organized, and you're thinking, I should just hire somebody, right? You're going to hire somebody who probably doesn't know how to do it. But if you are already planning on hiring somebody in your business, you're planning on hiring somebody maybe in the admin or operations department, you're planning on finding somebody who can kind of be your operations director, and that's already in your mind, then it makes sense to recruit your own person, which does cost money, right? This would be an expensive option, but then you have your own in-house person, and then they get trained, and then they do it internally in your business, right? So this happens more rarely, at least the companies that I work with. But if you're at a place in your growth trajectory and you say, you know what, if I just hire somebody, then they can be my business systems manager in-house, then that's certainly an option. So the differences between these two companies. So Tim Francis actually used to be one of my clients maybe 8 years ago. And then he got obsessed with systems. And then he brought someone on his team, and that person underneath him systemized his business. And now he recruits people who are really good virtual assistants, but he has a strong bent towards the assistants being good at developing systems and documenting them. So that's one option. The other one is Zephyr Recruiting, Erin Longmoon. I was just talking to her about maybe 2 months ago about this and about the kind of person that I want to recruit. And so she already has recruited someone like this for her own business. And so she's well aware of what kind of person you need and how to recruit them. And so that would be an option as well. So if you're listening to this and you're saying, is there just an easy button? That might be an option for you as well. And then the next one is what the other Alex, the one who runs this group, actually did, which is get an outsourced business systems manager. And this is not a sales pitch. I just want to let you know the options, right? This is another option. So basically, these are people who I've trained and certified. Alex had Arado. Arado she's trained in all types of project management, business management. She's super sharp. And so basically, she would work with your team. And then we have a procedure writer as well who works with your team. And again, your job is to lead the strategy. And then their job is to manage your team and to extract the information, the processes and procedures, which they do through either interviews, through screen shares, recordings, videos, and they gather up the pieces and then they clean them up and document them for you. So that's also another option. So that's called the outsourced business systems manager. So there's a few different ways to go about that. And both the Alexes kind of gave a quick rundown of what they're doing. They both did, I think you both started maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. So they're just getting into it. I would say that you have to stay pretty focused on this initiative to have good results. And I would say the focus needs to be about 4 months. So if you're pretty focused on this initiative for 4 months, then you're going to start to really see some significant result in your team, and it's going to really stick. And then from there, you can, I mean, the sky's the limit. And that's why I want to hang out on this slide right here for a little while here, which is called leading and implementation. You can use this slide or this idea for any implementation, any major strategic shift in your business. And I pull up this slide all the time when I am trying to identify a problem in a company I'm working with and wondering, why is this project not going forward? Why are we stuck? Why are things not happening? And so I thought this would be good for both of the Alexes to see, because they are both in the middle of trying to get out of the day-to-day of their business by managing their systems. And they're both in the middle of this new initiative, which is it's a shift, and it's a culture shift. It's a strategic shift. It's an operational shift. And those are hard. And they usually fail, actually, to be quite honest. They usually fail, and it's because of one of these things right here. And so my goal for the next maybe 7 minutes as I go through this is to make sure you know ahead of time why your initiative might fail, and you can prevent it, right? Pretty simple. So I'm going to try, I think there's a way to do a laser pointer. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here we are. So the top line is what you want. You want sustainable change. As a leader, you want this top line. And that means that you have strong, clear leadership. Everyone knows what's happening. People around you share your vision. They're part of it. They have the skill sets to execute on that vision. They're incentivized properly. There's alignment there. You've given them the resources, the tools to be successful, the proper structure that they need to stay in their lanes, and then a plan of action that everyone can see progress with. And then they get sustainable change. That's kind of the goal. But getting that goal is extremely hard, and it doesn't always stay very long. As in, you can be off on your vision for a few weeks, but then all of a sudden you're out of resources. But then the action plan is off. So any one of these red areas can throw you off, and sometimes it's more than one. So the first thing, leadership, right? So both of the Alexes, right? So if you stop beating the drum of, hey, we're going in this direction right here, we're going to follow this whole systems methodology, we're going to try to grow based on these techniques. If you stop talking about that, or you change direction, or you start going other directions, or you say nothing at all, like you don't say anything at all, there's going to be confusion, right? So even if your second in command is talking about it, if you're not talking about it, there's going to be confusion about where the direction of the company's going. So super important, make sure you are present there. Second thing is what Alex talked about, which is that strategic objective and those operating principles. So you're going to write down where the company's going, how it's going to get there, and the principles you're going to follow to get there. You write those things down, everyone buys into them. If people do not buy into them, or you don't write them down and people are not a part of it, then you don't have a shared vision. And there's going to either be outright sabotage, or there's going to be a soft sabotage of just not really trying to make it an effort. And this happens especially if you've tried to change initiative multiple times. The more times you as a leader have tried and failed to change the company, the more you're going to have this happen. It's pretty pervasive. So I would just say to make sure that, okay, I'm looking at some notes here. Let me pause a second. Some of these questions might be just coming in. Jimmy, did you have a question about this slide?
I know it was from earlier. Hold it until we get to Q&A.
Okay.
I'm good. Thanks.
All right. So, all right. So again, shared vision. This is what you want. People will sabotage. They won't necessarily be malicious, but they will, because they don't want to do it. No one likes change. The next one is the skill set. So you have the vision. They agree with it. If you do not teach them this new way of working, right, this new way of documenting systems, following systems, measuring systems, they're going to have high anxiety, right? Entrepreneurs, they're fine with new things. Entrepreneurs are fine with figuring out on the spot. They're fine with challenging themselves with new problems. Most everyone else is not. So if you just say, oh, just document the systems, we're going to follow them, it's going to be great. If you do not teach them the skill, they're going to have high anxiety. They're just going to stop, and they're not going to be able to proceed forward. Right? This is what the average employee does. Right? The employees you have that are really good under circumstances where nothing's documented, they're usually fine with change, but they're usually not very good in a company that's systematic and organized, right? And actually, Alex, as you mentioned it, this is probably Jimmy, right? Jimmy probably enjoys having the freedom of nothing documented and just kind of living by the seat of his pants, right? Because that's just his skill. Developing systems and following them is a new skill, has to be taught. Next thing is the incentive. So if they have the skills, but there's no incentive to do it, and this could be, you know, pain or pleasure, as in like, if we get these things done, we're going to pay you more money, or you're going to have more vacation days, or we're going to be able to delegate some things down to another employee, or, you know, something that's going to make their life better. Or if you don't do this, you're fired. You know, something negative. If you don't do positive, negative, some kind of incentive, no one will do anything, right? It's going to be gradual change. I worked with one company where the senior team, they had no incentive to do this. And the owner just said, well, we want to try our best. A year went by. They didn't write a single procedure down. They had paid me $60,000. They did not write one procedure. There was no incentive. And so I just, you know, I had a lot of other clients. I just said, okay, well, if you guys want to get one of these things done, go ahead. Anyways, long story, that was years ago, but they had no incentive. They had no incentive to get it done. And so they just didn't. So you have to, it needs to be a carrot or stick. You know, when Sam Carpenter systemized his business, he was just like, we're going to write these systems. If somebody didn't do it, he just said, okay, you're fired. And it was ruthless in a positive way with a smile on his face that we were going to do this. And there was going to be a negative consequence if you didn't do it. And if you stayed, everyone at Sam Carpenter's business, the one that's written about this book, they make twice as much as someone else does in that same industry. Twice as much money. So they're making over $25 an hour answering the phone at an answering service, right? So that's usually like a $12 an hour job. It's because he said, if you do this and you do this well, we're going to get paid well. Okay, so they had an incentive. Next, resources. This means, and both you Alexes need to be listening, if you're not giving your people a little extra time to do this, or the right tools to do this, or the right training to do this, or the, or I guess support to do this, if they don't have the resources, they're going to be frustrated, right? They're going to say, hey, you want me to work this 40-hour shift and you're giving me no time to do this, but you're expecting this to get this done, and they're going to be frustrated. So you have to either find a way to give them some time or something else to actually have the resources to get it done. And usually it's time, right? It's usually time, as in they're already really busy and you have to figure out a way to carve out their time or to assign them time or to give them help temporarily so that they can get over the hump of getting some of the core systems down so that then it gets easier, right? And there is definitely a hump to get over, right? A hump of changing the mindset, the strategy, and then the hump of getting some of these things documented so that then things get smoother, so that then things get easier, so that there is more sales, more profit, less waste, right? But there is a hump they have to get over. And that's where you invest the resources. The next thing is structure, right? This is going to be the procedure for procedures, right? There's a lot of different things that need to happen when you get started. You know, someone has to identify them, someone has to write the procedures, someone has to review them, approve them, save them in the appropriate place, print them out, disseminate them, train with them, measure. There needs to be a structure for how this is going to happen. This is a new part of the business, right? This is a new operational task that's happening that hasn't happened before. That's called the procedure for procedures. That needs to happen. Otherwise, there'll be friction and frustration amongst your team. And the last thing is the action plan, right? So if you're doing a big change initiative like this and you have no plan, which shows goals, it shows the things we're going to work on, the things that are already complete, we call it a procedure project plan. If you don't have that plan, then people feel like they're not making progress and therefore they will quit. So these are the things that I've noticed over the years with trying to make this change happen in business, that if I see one of these things happen, then I know they're not going to be successful. And typically it's because the owners, at least the ones who've paid for my help, they won't do the incentives or the resources, right? So they'll get the leadership on board, they'll have the vision, they'll teach the skills, or I'll teach the skills, and then I'll give them the structure and the action plan, but they won't give an incentive or the resources to their team to complete it, to see it through, right? So they'll get a few months into it, and their employees know that they're not in trouble if they don't do it. And if they do it, there's no benefit, so they don't do it. And they're not given any extra time or support, so they just stop. Okay, this happens all the time. So if you, both Alexes, just remember that if this is where you're at right now, you might have to do something before you lose momentum. Right, momentum is really key the whole time. So if you're going, 10 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and then you go back to 20, and then you go to 5, and then you have to kind of always be at a certain pace. Maybe the pace is 20 miles an hour, maybe the pace is 50 miles an hour, but you can't be going backwards. You have to kind of stay at a certain pace and stick with it. So really important stuff. Hopefully that helps. All right, so now after I explained the 4 options and then what you need to actually do to implement this, here's the question for you, right? Stick with where you are right now. And I don't know how bad the firefighting, maybe some of you have really great businesses that you don't have any stress at all, which is awesome. But a lot of people don't. In that case, it's time to take control. Take control of your systems, right? Actually have the peace of mind knowing that when you're not there, things are being done the way you'd like them to be done, and they're getting better with time. And that's where we try to take companies and people like you. All right, so call to action before we get to Q&A. If you have not yet, because some of you are new, you can get the book for free at workthesystem.com, or you can buy it on Amazon. And then if you want to book an appointment with me, that was one thing I wanted to just mention, Alex, is that I know you all have unique situations. I mean, I do some one-on-one coaching, I do some consulting on the side. So we can talk. You can shoot me an email, joshf@workthesystem.com. We can talk about what is going on and then what you need help with. Maybe we can come up with a custom solution for you. So, and then lastly, write down your next step. So possibly what I've talked about today resonates and you're thinking, what is your next step? Okay, I went a little longer than I wanted to, but there you have it. So questions, I saw a few come in the chat box. Jimmy, do you want to share your question now?
Sure. If that's all right, I have 2 actually.
All right.
I'm working backwards though, and that great leadership implementation chart. The structure, you mentioned the procedure for procedures.
Yes.
Do companies typically imbue their core values or their culture into that procedure for procedures? Does that
no.
question make sense?
It does make sense. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated, but the whole idea is, how are we going to write these procedures? Like, what is going to be who's going to write them? How are they going to be written? I probably can even find a.
Well, I'll just share an example experience from me. We did that, right? We like, hey, I want you, whoever person, to write the procedures, and they did that. And what we found, my business partner and I, was we hated the procedures and what they did, because they were 4 pages long and 13 different colors and fonts and bolds and yelling and caps and things like that. And so it wasn't our culture of fun. It was like a hammer fist. And so that's why I asked specifically about that from my experience.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a, so here's something that might work. I know it's kind of big here. Let's see, can you all see this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the whole idea is you want structure so that people can feel comfortable contributing to this process, right? And so the most common questions you get are, how do I title the procedure I'm writing? Where do I store it? What are the different types? What tools? I mean, you can read through the list right here, right? And if they know these things, then they're empowered to do it. If they don't know these things, they like you said, they're going to use orange, and they're going to use infographics, and they're going to put all sorts of other, things in there, sound. They're going to go off the map because you haven't really told them, here is the structure we're going to follow for this project, right? And so I start with these questions, right? Like, what is the formatting, right? Number 4, that's what you talked about.
Yeah.
Some people, they care a lot about formatting. Other companies don't really care. Again, this is the back of the house. People don't see this except for employees. When should they be created, right? So I mentioned the client I have that runs the smoothie shops. She's trying to create these procedures right now for recipes of smoothies. And that's not her company's problem. She already has them written down, and she's trying to write them down again to be prettier and more systemized. They're not solving a problem. So I'm saying, hey, you already have the recipe, and you already have a picture of it. Why are we documenting something that doesn't need to be created? Right? So getting people steered towards the right direction, how to create an effective one, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But there's usually, 4 people or more involved in each procedure, in terms of identifying the one needs to be written, somebody actually writing it, somebody actually reviewing it, and then somebody testing it out after it's been reviewed and approved, and then people kind of using it and trying to tweak it. So if you don't have that figured out, it's a big mess.
Yeah.
Because people don't really know who's supposed to do what, and it gets to be very frustrating very fast.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So hopefully that helps. Yeah, Sam is big on the formatting. In the back of his book, he talks about the formatting of his procedures, like, when to use italics, when to use bold, when to use these kind of things. And there's some people, they focus a lot on that. When I work with more blue collar industries, where a lot of the people don't work on the computer every day, we're much more loose with those things because we don't want to frustrate them, and we want to get the ideas out. And if the ideas are pen and paper with spelling errors, that's just fine, because we have something to work with, as opposed to precision with the formatting. When I work with law firms and engineering firms, then they usually can nail the formatting the first time. So, yeah,
Right.
Good question.
Thank you. And then just real, hopefully quickly as well, you mentioned that this role is a part-time role, but it's identifying, documenting, gathering, optimizing, measuring. That seems like a lot of work. Is that because it's structured and you limit to 10 hours a week?
Well, you can go faster and slower. Some companies, actually going faster oftentimes is worse, because people can't absorb too much change at once, right? So I would say that's one thing to think about. But the reason why it's not so much work is because the person who runs this is not always the one writing the procedures, right? So they are going to identify and say, hey, we need a procedure for how to answer the phone. Who here is the best at answering the phone? Oh, Sarah, you are. Okay, Sarah, you're going to write this procedure. All right, who else is good at answering the phone? Okay, Jim is. Okay, so Sarah, you're going to write it, and then on Wednesday, we'll give it to Jim. Jim's going to review it. And then, so they're more managing the project, right?
The project manager. Okay.
Yes. Now, the way we do it is that, and I don't know how much Alex actually used our procedure writer, but we have, so I oversee all the companies we work with, and then I have a project manager. So in Alex's case, he had Arado, right? And then Arado has Leanne, and Leanne actually is a procedure writer. So, if Alex was to voice record or interview or give some kind of screen recorded thing, then Arado, the project manager, would give it to Leanne, and Leanne would write it into a procedure, right? So the heavy lifting, the time consuming thing is the actual writing. The writing is what takes time, right? And so, but it's not full time, right? So the whole idea is that if you're assigning one procedure per person per week, then that person might need to spend an hour writing, maybe 2, but probably just an hour. And so each person in your company has to maybe put an hour in a week to actually be drafting the procedure. And then the managers bring it back, it gets reviewed. That might take another half hour. Maybe it goes back and forth once or twice. But the process of identifying the separate systems, you're going to find opportunities for innovation there. The process of documenting the systems, you're going to find waste, you're going to find opportunity. And the process of testing it out where someone else looks at it or someone from a different department looks at it, you're going to find synergies, optimizations, automations that you didn't know about. And then ultimately, then once you have a codified way to do it, then you can move to the next level and start to measure it and then move even further. So each step along the way is a step to really improve your business. So I would say that the process of doing it is what makes your business better, not the piece of paper at the end. Companies will come to me and they'll say, hey, Josh, I can go online and buy a procedure manual, like a whole manual for a certain industry, like an e-commerce industry. I bought a manual for e-commerce. It has all the systems in it. And I said, well, it's not really gonna help you at all. And he's like, no, what do you mean? I have all the systems. They're all documented right here. And I said that the whole point is there's nothing proprietary there. And your business, every one of those systems is going to be different. And you haven't instilled a culture to actually, or a strategy to be focused on this. And so it's not really going to help you. And that's virtually always the case.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Long answer to a short question. So
it was great.
Alex, am I going overtime? I don't know when you guys sign off here.
So we had until 1 o'clock, and I think Meredith jumped off. But I think people. Jonathan just joined. Thanks for that. There was a good slide. So some of us can stay behind. I know to ask questions. I asked you ahead of time, and so Josh said that if it's going to go a little bit over, he could stay to answer questions. But I do want to check around the room. Do we have any additional questions?
No additional questions.
Chad, I think you're unmuted yourself. So do you have a question, bud?
Yeah, man. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, this is something I really wanted to do. But I'm terrible about this. Like I wouldn't write down directions to my office from my house because I don't like going the same way every time. But it's, like if you wanted to take advantage of somebody like Arata or something like that, how do you implement that system? Can she write, if I was like, Josh, I need this, I want this and all that kind of thing. Is that something where you kind of just take it and I guess I'm wondering is I can't do it, but I know I need it done.
Yes. Well, someone like you, Chad, would, I don't know your business or your situation, so we could talk, but you remind me of someone who just bought, I don't know your industry. He owns an auto body shop, right? He's got like 5 locations. He doesn't use email. He's terrible at computers. He just wants it done. And he knows he needs to get it done because he's losing a ton of money. People are stealing money from him. And so basically, Arado is working with his operations manager. So Arado is not even working with him. He's there and he wants it done. So she's working with the operations manager. And then Arado and the operations manager are then separating the work. And then the work is coming to Arado, and then Arado is getting it documented through Leanne. So yeah, that's your situation is the whole reason why we developed that program is because you want to get, and I'm assuming, Chad, you got someone else in your company who's different than you, who is organized.
Yeah, you would think that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know Chad relatively okay. He reminds me of myself, of course. And except I'm not sitting in the dark corner of my office.
This is my. I try to look like a Bond villain.
But other than that, Chad and I are very similar. So one of the things I could kind of chime in to add to what Josh just said is After the first presentation, I was very excited because I'm like, who doesn't want to systematize their companies so you could have our business work like McDonald's? Because McDonald's is the small business that never really fails, right? They keep opening businesses all over called McDonald's, and they have it systematized down to a T, right? So who doesn't want a business like that? And nothing that is fast or easy is valuable, right? So this is not an easy task that you could achieve like next week. Hey, next week I'm going to have systematized companies. So it's going to take, at least 6 months, and then you need a mindset. I mean, this is a journey, right, Chad? So I called up, and I know my weaknesses just like yours. I called up, and Josh was like, okay, so can you do this? I'm like, hell no. Then he's like, who in your company can do this? I'm like, people in my company love firefighting. They're probably just like me, except we're like all in it together. We love chaos. He's like, okay, so we can't do the certification. You're not as lucky as Alex Alexandrov. He has some organized people that can go to certification and can help him out. So I'm like, listen, can you recruit somebody for me? Can you find me somebody, please? So Josh started, he's like, hey, he's an entrepreneur like all of us, right? So Josh started looking at like recruiters to find somebody. And he's like, but dude, I want to get started on this, because if I don't get started, I'm going to get busy and forget about this, right? So then he called me back like a week later, and he's like, hey, we could have it done for you where I could give you somebody. You can't hire her, right? Because she's awesome. But this girl has been like a Six Sigma black belt, whatever. And it goes, and she will get you started. And that's what happened with me is Arata came in and we got my team. I was kind of like that leader that was beating the drum. That's about all I can do because I'm kind of disorganized. And I said, we got to do this, right? And they're like, how we do this? I'm like, I don't know, right? Talk to Arata. So Arata came in every single week and she worked with my team. And I actually, assigned some people, and she like separated the processes. And I mean, I'll tell you, I'm happy to report we got about 25, 30 processes written for like 3 of my, departments of my company. And I'm beginning to see the change. Like, before we were like, oh, we have an issue. How do we solve it? And we will like keep solving the same issue over and over. Now we're like, hey, we have a process for that. And they're like, okay, so that issue stops repeating itself, right? And this is, it's a journey, right? I mean, I think Jonathan, as I was talking, said something about Ridley still going in the journey. Jonathan, would you start this company 80 years ago, right? Or something is when Ridley started?
No, we're actually a 40-year-old company. I just happened to inherit it 6 years ago. Yeah.
Right. But there's still like so it's a mind shift. It's kind of like Chad going to the gym, right? You get the majority of that. You need at least 4 months to kind of build up the habit, and then you'll never like leave because you need that. It's like, okay, how did I even like survive without going to the gym and getting those endorphins? It's kind of stuff like that, right? Josh, back to you. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm everyone who's here needs to be his Alex's accountability partner now for the next few months.
We're all looking to throw darts at Alex. It's never either one of them really. So it's always fun.
Yeah.
But so I mean, what do you have to do to be ready? Like we're trying to figure out. We're still trying to choose the best way to do some of our stuff. We're trying to write position descriptions for all of our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's is that the right time? I mean, how do you know when you're ready to do it?
I think you're ready to do it when you're really fed up with where you are. so
10 years late, I guess, is where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's not a joke either. I've worked with companies that are, pre-startup, like pre-revenue, and they're ready, and they take off, and that's fine. And other ones, they've been living in this dysfunction for 20 years, and then they finally hit a point when they're ready. So I think the size of business doesn't matter. It's more about, the way we implement it is different, right? But it's more about the owner's frustration with the status quo has to hit a point where they know, okay, I have to move forward, right? And so it's funny, but a lot of times my best clients are the ones who, they just had a nervous breakdown. They just had a major health issue, heart attack, their spouse threatened to leave them, things like that. And then they go, okay, I'm going to finally make a change. So two of my clients, their operations managers died. And then I got called because they said, hey, I have no idea what's going on here and nothing's documented. And then they realize the importance, right? So, I mean, I don't want to wish something horrible to happen to you, but usually once something horrible happens, then people are ready. Definitely don't plan on having your things organized before you get help, because you'll never be done, right? There's no company that I've worked with who had it all together, even close. And the reason why is because the documentation that we do is it's supposed to be living, right? As in it continues to improve, it continues to get refined. Sam Carpenter, 20 years later, after he developed this whole way of fixing companies, they're still documenting systems. They're still reviewing them. They're still improving them. So it's still something they do, right? They're doing it at a higher level. They're way more precise. They're trying to pursue perfection. So they make one mistake every 15,000 phone calls, right? And that's one of their key things is like they're the highest quality answering service in the world because they've focused so hard on perfection that they can charge a lot of money, right? And that's their whole business. That's their business model to do that. So that might not be for you, but I wouldn't worry about getting things ready. I would more just say you want to move forward with this initiative. And then it's about prioritizing the initiative. Let me put it this way. If you're doing like 6 other initiatives right now, like you're building a new website, opening a new location, hiring a bunch of salespeople, and integrating to a new, server, don't do this at the same time, right? So you have to have some realism in terms of prioritization. But if you can make this a high priority for a few months and then make it a priority for years afterwards, right? Because you need to get over the hump. Once you get over the hump, then it just needs to be an ongoing heartbeat of the business. So again, kind of a long answer. Hopefully that helped.
It does. I mean, that's why I hate logging into these learning initiatives. They cost me like $5 and $10 grand at a shot. It's such a hassle, man. I have got to get 4 less organized friends that don't care about getting better because that's who you surround yourself with,
Chad, just care about you and want you to get out of your dark corner of your office and into the light. That's all I care about.
You should have seen me in college. I surrounded myself with short, fat people just so I would look tall and thin. So now I got to call Josh and then try to somehow get him to add his fee to your bill so that he can fix mine.
You don't have to do anything. It depends on what you want to do in your business, my friend. But no, so far, I mean, Chad, listen, we all care about you and want to get out of firefighters just like we are. I mean, I'm in firefighting as much as you are, right? I mean, I'm a disorganized entrepreneur, and the only thing I can do is, I'm focusing on 2 things: choosing the right people and working on processes. That's my only initiatives I have. Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I run the day-to-day of the business. But those are the 2 initiatives that I'm focusing on this year. I keep telling it to everybody. And Josh is an important part of that initiative and processes. And then we have Culture Index. That's an important part of that for my people initiative. And that's all I focus on, right? If I could focus 50% of that, I would. Unfortunately, I still don't have all my processes written out. So the issues don't keep coming back.
So what's the best thing to do to set up a call with you, Josh?
We'll just talk, Chad.
An email. Yep,
just shoot me an email. We'll talk. We'll see when the right time is, and we'll get started.
Josh, do you have your email in chat box so Chad can?
Yeah, it's on the screen there, but I will put it.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Oh, here you go. Okay, sorry, I didn't have.
Yeah. Another quick question, Josh. You've mentioned all the procedures in terms of being documented and written. Do you have suggestions or feedback on videos as a process tool?
Yes. Yeah, so we try to start with the simplest and work our way to more complicated. So writing, and then writing with images, and then maybe doing a screencast would be the next version up, and then kind of eventually videos would be like the most advanced. And so we try not to start with those, because what happens is people will come up with a new idea and they'll say, oh, we have this video done. And so they won't innovate on the system because it's in video format. So we try to discourage them from doing videos. And if they do videos, we try to make them do short videos, right? Because the longer the video is, the more someone new is going to watch it and say, this could be improved, this can be improved. And what will happen is, therefore, those ideas just won't ever happen. Or one person will do the ideas, but no one else will, because it's not actually in the system. So we try to avoid videos for that reason. But I will tell you that there's an advantage with videos in that they're fast, right? So I was working with somebody, and he was, and this is in the presentation from before, he was putting grommets in this vinyl sign, right, for this church. So that's like we put those little metal circles in so that it doesn't tear. And I said, why are you doing that? He's like, well, I'm the only one who knows how to do the grommets, and I'm the marketing manager, and so I got to do this thing for a promotion. And I said, I bet my 12-year-old son could do that. And I said, you just need to write a procedure for it. And he's not the writing kind of person. So we just took out his phone, hit record. And I said, so tell us how to do a grommet. Okay, this is what you do. You get the thing in, you squeeze it, makes a hole. Right, it took 2 minutes. That was a procedure. Now, will they ever go back and write down the step-by-step on how to do a grommet? Probably not, but the video is done, right? So for some things, the video is just fine. Other issues with videos, you can't carry them around like a notebook. You can't like physically carry them places. Wi-Fi issues, technology issues, login issues. There's a lot of issues with video that can create problems just because of the mobility. So I'd have to know more about your business and what you're using it for, but I don't start there. And also, if you're going to use a procedure writer like us, oftentimes what we'll do is we'll just say, shoot a video of how to do it. And then our procedure writer will take that and then document it into a step-by-step for you. So that's one way to save you some time, because the writing, it does take time. That's for sure.
Just to add to that, Josh, what we've done is we had this thing called Loom Video, which is kind of like a screen capture. It's not a video, but it's like a screen capture. And so our property manager, when we were working with a router from Josh's company, they would just, instead of like writing it, because she had a day job, she would like capture what she's doing in a Loom Video. It would be like, I don't know, like a 5-minute Loom Video. And then like the next day, we actually have a nice written down procedure with objectives, everything like that comes out of Josh's company. And that was like huge, because it would take my property manager constantly complain, oh, well, do you want me to work or do you want me to write procedures? Because writing procedures would take her like, I don't know, 3 hours, right? And so eventually I solved it, because now she only does writing procedures, and I hired another property manager. But other than that, but until then, the process writer from Josh's company was a godsend.
Yeah. So I guess, long answer to, again, a short question is you can do it to get the information out of your head, but it's not the easiest to maintain and update down the road. So
okay.
Some downfalls there. Well, these are great questions. Hey, Alex, I'd love to stay. I think I'm actually in a
No. You're in the event. And listen, this is great. And I think most of the people are, starting to leave. So really, thank you so much. Great stuff, Josh, as always. I think at least Chad will reach out to you, but thank you for your time as always. And look forward to, thank you for helping you out in the process.
No problem.